We'll get out my last one.
Hey
Last one
everyone,
too.
Andre here along with Paul Gale to discuss the Super Mario Brothers movie once again because I just can't get enough of this movie. And I haven't discussed it in depth yet with Paul, so that'd be fun to do a live discussion where we just both geek out about this thing. Paul, how are you doing?
Oh, very good. I think we're tied right now with three showings each, but we haven't talked really in depth, like you said, after our first night at the red carpet. So, uh, still loving it just as much as that first day, and then some, kind of even more. So, just fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I actually love it a little bit more now. Like, because the first time I saw it, like, I had a complete blast. Super fun. Like, it hit me emotionally just seeing Mario realize so beautifully on the screen. But I think the critic half of my brain and, like, the emotional half are, like, at odds with each other, and I was looking at it, I think, almost too critically in a way where I was trying to make it work within the frameworks of the framework of typical movies. And like after I saw it again, I'm like, okay, it actually resolves most of my issues with it. Like I think they actually did a really great job. And I think the critics really kind of undersold just how well it accomplishes what it sets out to do. And I think it's almost a movie you need to see more than once to fully appreciate it. Not just because of all the Easter eggs, which I guess could almost be argued are almost distracting the first time. There's so much going on. So seeing it again, being able to focus in on what it is, and I'm like, man, this movie's amazing. I freaking love it. So
Yeah, with each, you know, uh, follow-up reviewing, the second view, the third view, I tried imagining I've got a controller in my hand and I am given a 90-minute opportunity to play a really big but limited running Mario game. And how awesome is it? And I've got a little bit of a Bowser cutscene, and then I'm playing as Mario, and I'm enjoying going through these platforming elements in Brooklyn and into the Mushroom Kingdom, and all of that fits really well as this joyride of what we love about Mario so much. Oh, I got the music, I got a new piece, I got a nostalgic piece, and when you look at it as a game, I think it satisfies, and as a video game movie, oh, big time. But it hits every element that I want out of my fun
yeah,
for the
I mean,
time.
I think ultimately what matters is did I have fun at this movie, and I don't think there's a movie I've had more fun at ever. Like this is one of the most fun. Like I said before on Twitter, even during my third viewing, Paul, I was realizing during it I was smiling the entire freaking time. I even tried to consciously get rid of the smile, and it'll just creep right back immediately. I'm like, how in the hell is this possible? Like I cannot control it. I cannot control the smile.
Totally. You you smile because you appreciate so many fun little elements like Mario and Luigi getting along, a cute moment here, something that's legit funny there, or just the sheer happiness of seeing how well realized things are. Bowser's breath, fire breath, like so many things are cool. It's Yeah,
Literally,
I agree.
perhaps.
I
And I should.
agree.
On that note, by the way, I should mention there will be spoilers here, everyone. If you have not seen the movie, get the hell out of here. Not that we don't want you here, but we want you to enjoy the movie as much as you can your first time, without spoilers. I don't know how much we'll be touching on specifically, but we're not going to hold back if you want to, so just keep that in mind. So yeah, thank you for typing that in the chat too, Paul. Matt from Wii Sports asks, "Are we going to make another Mario Easter egg video? Because they found 11 more themselves." Yeah, we might be. I'm sure we'll be doing more. So thanks, thanks, Matt from Wii Sports. We'll be keeping an eye on that. But and I saw someone else in the chat mention that they thought it worked better the second time too. And I feel like I've seen that comment a few times now from multiple people where it just flows better because you're not being assaulted by it's not a great word to use because I love the movie the first time. But you don't have like it's almost overwhelming the first time. There's constant Easter eggs and sights to see and tons of stuff happening, and being able to watch it again lets you kind of like take it in more on its own level, and I think the movie's actually much better paced than the first viewing kind of suggested might be. And I thought like it worked a lot better the second time. The emotional beats hit actually even a little bit harder. Just the story makes more sense. It seems less random. It's still very much a Mario movie, but it feels a little bit more cohesive to me.
Yeah. Uh, I enjoyed the first viewing. I didn't think that it was rushed, but it did feel fast paced, which I guess is a good thing because it left me wanting more. And that time went by like that. And I was just happy for 90 minutes. And my second viewing was with my kids. So it was a little bit of a different take seeing my wife and kids laugh to certain things and then talking with them. Like you had your, interview with your parents and seeing how every generation has fun. I had my own little, interview with the family. Like what did you think? And from their impressions, they were blown away. They loved it too. And then, of course, third viewing, uh, similar on my own, but it's
Yeah.
a it's not a rushed experience, but it is really something that I think you appreciate more with each showing, with each viewing. Maybe kind of like you with the Mario Kart ride. That kind of grew on you, you know?
It was basically the same thing. I mean, for different reasons. But yeah,
Yeah.
that ride was also kind of like overwhelming the first time. But once you understand it and you go back into it, it's like, okay, this ride's actually a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But I have to say, I was thinking of this earlier, Paul. Like, I had a blast at Super Nintendo World. I really enjoyed the Mario Kart ride. With that being said, right now the Mario movie is like my highlight of the year. Like, this has been such a fun experience that, again, I have not had that much fun at anything in a long time. Like, it really, like, you hear it often. Like, it took me back to feeling like a kid, and I'm that's definitely been the case for me too in the past. I don't think anything has encapsulated that feeling as much as this movie has in probably the past 10 years for me.
Yeah. This is the most fun I've had in a movie. I mean, there's some other big ones that really hit well, like Spider-Man No Way Home. I had a blast with that one because I wasn't spoiled by the previous Spider-Man actors, for instance, coming in. So that was like a really shocking moment. But, I guess my love for Mario is greater because that's a longer period of my life being totally drawn to Mario franchise than Spider-Man. So this one hit more in the nostalgia. I think just delivered more for what I wanted out of Mario than any other IP, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or DC. Like those movies did successful things for what their IP gives me, but Mario delivered more from what I wanted out of this. Like it was the ultimate Mario movie that I wanted
Yeah, that's
more
exactly. I
so
mean,
than these other franchises. Like,
totally. It
oh,
embraced
love it.
Mario in a way that almost no other IP, for one, has done. I think, to the level of faithfulness that whatever the source material may have been. To be fully honest, I don't follow like the comics myself, so maybe the Marvel movies are as good in that sense. I don't know. I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but for the things I've seen, I've not seen anything, especially in the video game adaptation space, any single movie or spin-off or whatever encapsulate the original source material so well while still updating and adapting it for the new medium, new medium for the IP's case being the movie in for Mario. And it seems like we're not alone, Paul. Like, this movie is resonating with seemingly everyone. It is now had a #1 opening, box office opening of any animated movie ever, which is absurd. If you're Disney, you gotta be sitting there thinking, like, what's going on here? Like, what happened? We're the kings and we're just got stumped by a freaking turtle and a plumber.
Forget about best, grossing video game film of all time, like animated. That's huge. You're up against Frozen and Frozen 2, these juggernauts who do movies all the time. Now, to be fair, Illumination, was a big part of why the film did well, but I think that relationship between them and Nintendo was perfect. And one of the things I know in the review of yours and many people's, I agree too, it wasn't afraid to use the source material and handle it beautifully. They didn't have to say, oh, you know what? Mario and Luigi don't look that good being short. Let's make them regular
Right.
heighted people. Oh, their hand to face ratio, that's not going to look good on film. Let's do
Face
like,
ratio.
I mean,
Never heard that before, but it is something you have to consider, I guess.
something silly like that
Right.
shouldn't. Some things that some movies feel like, you know what? I don't know if the world's ready for a super colorful spandex wearing cast of X-Men. Let's put them in black. Good movie, but that's a little bit of a piece of, oh, we don't think that we could do it 100% faithful. We got to change it. And Nintendo Illumination, they didn't change it. They kept it, accurate.
Right.
And they respect the IP, and we
Yeah.
respect it, and we respect that they respect it, and they treated us as like, you guys are fans, so we made it for you. But anyone could enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, like I showed in our video, as you mentioned earlier, I interviewed my parents who saw the movie and they loved it, and they're not even that big of Mario fans. Like, they know of Mario obviously because I grew up with Mario, so they know him, by extension of raising me as a kid. And they had a blast here too, even if they didn't understand every reference. And they got the big ones, but they didn't understand everything, and they didn't need to. Like, they had so much fun at it, and I think that's again partially why this movie has been such a success. Like, it's reaching like almost every demographic. Almost everyone knows Mario on some level, and it's done it in such a way that like it evokes the feeling of the games while still making it work in movie form, and it is so good in that sense. real quick, we got some super chats we got to get through. Thank you, everyone, for the super chats. First up, we have Valentine. We'll touch on these quickly, and then we'll circle back to, the movie talk, the talk we were just having. Valentine, thank you, Valentine, says, I think DK could have used more to do, maybe by including Boom Boom for him to fight. I don't know who I would have had for his voice actor. Some heels, like some random character. The best I can do. I think that's what they're saying. So Boom Boom might have been a good fit for him, is what they're proposing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Do you think DK could have used an expanded role here?
I thought DK, I mean, for it being Mario's movie and DK being like a side character, but an important part of the
Right.
Mario universe, it's also, I mean, obviously, Donkey Kong is why Mario got to be, Jumpman and all that. But I think he had a good amount of screen time and a good amount of the laughs and the impact and, the suit power up at the end. So I just want more. Like, I want two things out of this. Well, I want a lot of things, but a Donkey Kong spin-off movie.
Yep.
Oh, I think that's a tremendous idea. And then also, I'm not alone in this, right? A Donkey Kong Mario co-op game.
Oh, absolutely. After that final sequence, after that
so
sequence in the Mushroom Kingdom, oh my
cool.
god. And every time I see it, it gets better and better. But it's so well animated. It is so fabulous. And seeing them work together is so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they still have like that kind of rivalry between them. I love that they're like working together. And the way that scene's filmed too, by the way, it's basically a one take. And it is so wonderful, especially with how it contrasts against the training montage earlier. But the training montage really felt like I won't make a whole video about this, but the training montage felt like it represented the games, like where you die constantly, you come back, you try again, and you see Mario getting better, of course, over it. But this final scene really kind of, the final action scene in the Mushroom Kingdom really sells that by being that one take. It's like, look, Mario's killing it on his first try. Like, he's nailing it this time. He doesn't need any redos, any one-ups or anything, and that's really fun to see.
Training montage was, you got the hardest level of Super Mario Maker that some person made online, and you're going
Kaizo, whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah. And then Mario and DK at the end is this co-op awesome experience where you're good. Yeah, they still lost their power up at one point, but they got it back and obviously leveled up, so to speak.
Exactly.
But a game of that ilk.
It'd be so good. I definitely want a 2D Mario and DK team up now. It needs to happen. Yeah. I hope it does. Next up, we have Corby Knight with a super chat. Thank you. Who says, did you guys ever bring your 3DS for Street Pass? I was lucky enough to get one at my midnight showing. Did you try that, Paul? I know you did Super Nintendo World. Did you try at the movie?
I really should have, but I did not. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone showed up, but I just didn't bring it, forgot. On my fourth viewing, I will.
Yeah. Oh, we've got another, looks like another YouTuber in the chat, I believe. Steven Breda. It says Seth Rogen was a perfect casting choice. I mean, you have a great big hairy gorilla, and then you have Donkey Kong. You know what? I agree. I have seen some conflicting takes on this. I think it worked great. I almost forgot it was Seth Rogen, even though he's not really disguising his voice at all. He just felt like a really good fit. Even his laugh was perfectly timed in the movie. Like, it just made complete sense where they used it, I thought. So, yeah. Alex Ackler, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, says, with a super chat, says, what characters that weren't in the movie do you guys want for the sequel? I want Lakitu the Cloud Guy, Angry Sun from Mario 3, and of course, Wario. Who do you want, Paul?
Okay. Wario and Luigi, and depending on how far we go into that, Wario and Waluigi are someone who I could see in the sequel. And I have a fun way of how they can be, which we could talk about that later possibly. But those two, and yeah, Lakitu too would be cool, but mostly Wario and Waluigi. Or maybe a Daisy, I think would be a good fit.
Daisy, yeah, I think a lot of people would love to see Daisy. I think, the thing is, we might have Princess Overload, because of course we've had some light teases, potentially, of Rosalina, especially with Peach's origin story, or lack thereof. But the fact that they tease that there is an origin story to her is pretty interesting. So I don't know if we get Daisy in the next one, unless they have some kind of pairing with Rosalina for some reason. But yeah, Waluigi, Wario would be good. I mean, it's interesting how much they had so much going on in this movie, and yet there's still so much more they can do with the Mario series. It's impressive. So I guess for me, obviously we'll see Yoshi, so I'm excited for that.
That's true.
Wario and Waluigi are interesting because I On the one hand, I love them as characters. I want to see them here too. On the other, I don't know if we need them yet. Like I think there's still more we can do with Bowser, more we can do with potentially the Koopalings. Like I guess I would love to see the Koopalings appear because this movie, the Mario movie so far, has married so much of it together. We got the Brooklyn origin story, we got the DK tie-in, but now we need like the thing that we haven't gotten yet. The one thing I need complete is we need the Koopalings as Bowser's kids. I don't know that's gonna happen, but I hope that they do. I hope the Koopalings are Bowser's kids. Now the thing is, I don't know how you explain that because Bowser doesn't have anyone yet, seemingly, unless he's estranged from a wife or whatever. So it's possible he could meet someone in the future. I don't know. Maybe there's gonna be some other explanation for the Koopalings. I'm not quite sure. So, but I hope that we do get them though.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't know if you want me to go into this potential sequel talk of how they could be incorporated.
Let's hold off for a little bit. We'll come back to the sequel later on. We got some big super chats. Dear God. All right, Noah Charles a man, thank you with the super chat says, love the movie. I cannot contain my excitement. Exactly, Noah. I was smiling the entire way through, and that's not an exaggeration. Next, we have Tristan with a $10 super chat. Thank you. Says, I remember seeing rumors of the DK spinoff a year ago. If they've been working on a year ago. If they've been working on it, a 2025 release would be a perfect release year with the DK Land opening in Orlando and Osaka. Maybe a release and a new game also. It's possible. They have teased that they haven't said anything about a sequel yet, or whether they're working together or anything else. But of course they're going to. Obviously, with how well the movie's been doing, they'd be silly not to. The only question is, have they done any groundwork on that yet? Right. And I think it's possible that they haven't. Like maybe they wanted to make sure it wasn't going to bomb first before they, explored a sequel. And it took them almost 10 years just to get this out of the gate. Now, granted, there's a lot of that. The early few years are just like establishing the relationship period, and I imagine a sequel would go much faster, but I don't know if 2025 would happen. No, I'm gonna say it, 2025 is not gonna happen unless they rush the sucker, which I don't want them to. I think 2026 at the soonest is what we could expect.
Too little of time, unless if they already, like you said, have been building behind the scenes, which
right.
I don't know.
Let's see here. A new game, though, like we touched on earlier, would be awesome. Hopefully a Mario and Donkey Kong one. Lava Wings, a $10 super chat. Thank you, Lava Wings says, I love the movie, but I did not expect Cranky Kong to spout retro, but I did expect Cranky Kong to spout retro references one after another and spend the movie comedically berating Mario and DK for having everything easy nowadays. So, yeah, Cranky Kong's probably the character they changed the most from what I expected, but on the other hand, the way they used him here, like, I couldn't imagine him spouting retro references, but it wouldn't make sense for the context, how they set the Kong text of how they set everything up. But I did expect him to be a little bit crankier, a little bit maybe older. But I will say, watching it again, his portrayal is working for me a little bit more. And you actually do see some of that crankiness come through. It's just in a different way than we saw in the games. Although it's still directed largely at Donkey Kong, which I do appreciate. So,
yeah.
What do you think, Paul? Any thoughts? Any more thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I thought, Cranky's depiction would be a little bit different, both in voice and his attitude, but, without having any references or having like a xylophone that he's spinning or doing some throwback like, oh, you've got it so easy with your carts. Back in the day, we had mine carts and we had to push them up and down.
Uphill both ways, yeah.
One little nod like that, like, I don't know if I was expecting it, but, yeah,
that could be
it was still a fine character. He had his cane. He did look old. He was lifted up, implying that maybe he can't move around as well when he was put into the seat by the two Kongs, to move on. But hey, he was still cool. There's room to continue.
Ipsters with a 10-pound super chat, thank you, says, I would have liked to see it a little more between the main parts. For example, showing them going through the jungle for 2 minutes on the way to Kong. Maybe get chased by Rambi or bees. Also, why no Toasterina at all? Toasterina is there, just super brief, like a 2-second scene during the travel montage. I don't disagree. I would love to have seen more of that. But on the other hand, like I didn't feel like it was a big gap. I felt like it mostly worked for how it is. But obviously, there's so much more of the Mario and Donkey Kong universes I would love to see portrayed on the screen. I guess the question is where you draw the line, because there's so much that they could show off here.
Yeah, these beautiful levels, you want to go more than just a 2-second walk by, but
right.
Who knows? Maybe they did shoot a little more, and for the at-home release, it'll be like, here's a little bit of a deeper look here. Maybe not. If not, like it's still a very fine
That'd be
journey.
amazing if
But
they did. We do know there's that one scene on the bridge of the Cheep Cheep where they cut off a couple of seconds. Oddly, there's a,
yeah.
where Mario gets a Cheep Cheep on his face, and for whatever reason they cut off the main joke part or the punchline of it all.
Mm.
So, anyways, hopefully that
Different than
gets
the trailers.
yeah. Dan Christian with a super chat for $5. Thank you. Says instead of a Yoshi egg for the post credits. Spoiler, sorry everyone.
Well,
How hype would it have been if it was a Smash envelope, or is it too early for a Smash Cinematic Universe? Way too early. Way too early. I mean, I think that's a cute idea. I think that's something you roll out down the line, if ever, because there is an interesting point to this all, Paul. Is there this if they do a Smash spin-off, it's going to be weird considering the Smash characters, a lot of them already exist in this Mario movie universe. We see the Blue Falcon, we see Pit and Kid Icarus, of course. I think there's a couple other cameos too. I'm forgetting offhand, but how do you explain those away if they end up in a Smash thing?
you know, Marvel did something interesting in the '90s Spider-Man, cartoon long time ago on Fox Kids, where like the Spider-Man Peter Parker in that show, he met Stan Lee, and the Stan Lee from another universe was just drawing these characters, and Stan was like, "These are just you're not real. Like I'm an author. I'm an artist. I'm a creator." So like different universes where maybe in this Mario universe, yeah, Nintendo exists without Mario and Luigi, being their stars, but from another universe, it's like the characters on these walls are their own characters, and Mario is just a video game,
Right.
and something like we visit Little Mac. Although who knows, like in this world, is Punch Out a video game, or is that like a local boxer that actually is in Brooklyn?
What if
right?
every Nintendo gaming universe is based on something? So that's
Maybe we made the Punch Out video game based off of this Little Mac boxer who made his way to the top of this championship, and like I don't know, they could find a way. Fortunately, they could just do anything and just pop in from different portals and different universes.
they can explain it away or just ignore the issue entirely.
Just don't think about it, just enjoy.
Exactly.
Which I would.
Salvador with a super chat. Thank you, Salvador. Says, "Where is my Smash Brothers movie?" Yeah, we're just talking about this. I don't know if it will ever happen, but it could. But if it does, it's not going to be for a long time because they need to establish there are even other universes first. Like I think it's possible that the next movie would. I mean, I think it's likely even it's going to be Mario 2. So that's going to postpone how long it is until we get another Nintendo series, whether it's Zelda or Metroid or Star Fox. I think it's going to be at least a few years before we see anything else outside of Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mario sequel first, maybe a DK, then we'll see.
Maybe. Lucas says, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Peach's backstory. Okay, first of all, I love that they brought this up because it's something that has occurred to me before, but you don't really think about that often. But it's like, yeah, why is a human or a supposed human ruling over these mushroom people? And I love that they addressed it. Not, we didn't get the full backstory here, but they did tease it, suggesting that there's more to come. And I do love that they acknowledge the fact that she's not from this world. The Toadstools adopted her as their ruler, which I appreciated. So that kind of explains away the whole thing. Like, did she just come in here and like take over the kingdom? No, they let her rule over them. And I thought that was cute. So I like that they touched on it. But what do you think they meant by that, Paul? Do you think she is from Earth or is she from somewhere else?
Good question. She said, there's a big galaxy out there, or there's a lot of galaxies out there. I think she's from another Earth, like, excuse me, not from Mario and Luigi's Earth, but another Earth, or maybe another Earth-like, planet. That's my guess, but who knows?
Because
it's fun to speculate. I don't think they can make a wrong decision. Like if they show a throwback in the next movie and it's like, 1980s or whatever, 20 years ago, our Earth, and that's how it happened, that would be okay. And if it's a whole other planet and that's it, then yeah, that's fine also.
Right. By the way,
but also that makes you. Oh,
go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. That it would be interesting because when you do bring someone like Daisy, is she from another galaxy? Because Princess Peach is so rare of a human that she probably doesn't know another princess yet.
That is the interesting question about this. Yeah, is that
she the only human?
Yeah, well,
how did she know that? How did she know she was a human to identify Mario as a human?
I was wondering that too. Actually, I was wondering that as well. That's a good question.
Oh,
because it's interesting. The the movie basically confirms the exist. I mean, it doesn't confirm for sure, obviously, but it strongly hints at the fact that Rosalina probably exists if you know your Mario lore because of the Luma. And knowing
Mhm.
Rosalina exists means that humans also exist from elsewhere, which means the possibility for Peach coming from somewhere other than Earth is incredibly likely. And
Mhm.
we had our Jake posted our own theory video a few days ago about like what it could mean. But I think there is a strong possibility that they're tying Peach's origins in with Rosalina. And I think that makes so much
Mhm.
sense to tie those two together to bring Rosalina into this universe in a more organic way than the games do. Because let's be honest, the games just kind of introduce her out of nowhere. And it worked for the games. The game's never been about the story. But I love the idea they're able to pair it together with a better origin with the characters we already know. That's great. I'm excited for that. So,
And it's being mentioned in the chat. Peach was old enough to know what humans were. She was, but at the same time, she said, "My first memory was walking through this warp pipe into this world." So if she's like a 1 year old little toddler walking around,
right.
I old enough to know that she had human parents. I don't know. Maybe there is someone else that she's
These
seen
are
along the
in this
way.
universe. Babies are pretty smart. Okay, we
Yeah,
see Baby Mario do some impressive things in the
that's
games,
also true.
and they held
Yeah,
off. And Baby Mario defended Baby Luigi against what seemed to be Baby Spike.
yeah.
Dan of the super chat, Dan Christian, thank you, says, "I'm glad the Illumination did not minionify Goombas or Koopas. 1,000%. Like, I think that was a concern. I mean, again, I think that speaks to the strength of this movie, is just how faithful it was to the games without being too faithful. Like, on the one hand, what I appreciate about the movie, like a lot of people call the movie safe, and it is in the sense that it doesn't do like anything offensive. It's not gonna. I don't think the movie's gonna offend anyone, but I feel like calling it safe isn't fully doing it justice, especially when you consider Nintendo's pedigree with stories and Mario, where they have been fairly conservative with the character. Like we've seen things happen here that we haven't in 40 years of Mario, and I think that was a risk. That was a risk, and it paid off because they did things that we wanted to see, or that maybe we didn't even know we wanted to see. It's like, yeah, I love that, and so I think calling it safe doesn't fully do justice to what they accomplished here, and the fact that that Illumination didn't like minionify characters that are almost designed to be like the Goombas or Toads. It's like, no, they feel true to the spirit of what they were in the games while still I would say improving them for the movie medium, and I just building upon what was there, and I love that. I love seeing these characters realized on screen. I think that's partially why like the movie hit me so hard the first time. It's like, man, they did such a beautiful job taking these characters that we have. Everyone has their own 40 years worth of, not everyone, but like who grew up with them has their own like life's worth of memories with these characters, and the fact that they
Yeah,
were able to realize them in a way that seemed to make sense for almost everyone that's seen the movie. That's amazing. That is amazing.
definitely true. Uh, the nostalgia hit different for what decade you were born in, and then how much Nintendo love that you had, but it still hits you. And as safe as it was, it also did things that like we didn't have to see Mario and Luigi with a family. I mean, how
No.
many people playing the games are like, I wonder if Mario and Luigi's parents missed them on these adventures. Probably not a thought that most people had, or like,
Right.
do they go back and forth in the real world? Do they just live in the Mushroom Kingdom? How did they get there? So, I appreciate that extra thought, and the games don't really need it. Super Mario 64 just opens up, and Mario pops out the pipe, and he's there. And he knows Princess Peach already because she invited him.
Right.
There's no extra context like, well, how did she mail him? Did he come from Brooklyn? Nothing. So I like that the movie added that extra depth and, bridge this gap. And yeah,
No, totally.
it, it
I've always
did
loved the
enough.
Brooklyn origin story. I'm so glad they effectively canonized it here beyond what it may have already been, because Yoshi's Island kind of undermined, like it basically proposed a new
The
origin
stories.
story. Yeah, I've always hated that story. Like I like the game, hate the story. So I'm so glad that we had the real world roots for Mario. I know like origin story is kind of like a negative word almost, or negative phrase these days. I love them. I like origin stories, especially when they're done well. I thought they handled Mario beautifully because seeing his family, especially with the angle that they went with, where Mario almost he's like looking for his dad's approval. He doesn't have it. That provides a
Mhm.
theme that ties into Donkey Kong as well, who's having similar issues as well. I
Yep.
just thought it was all really well done.
Yeah, that extra little bit of depth, it means more, especially for like people who are glued into this IP. They get a little bit something out because that's a little bit of relationship to real life. situations. So,
Right. Yeah. How many people have
uh,
daddy issues out in the
I
real
mean,
world, right?
like, oh, did I disappoint you? No.
Yeah, exactly. So like,
Yeah.
I think those character beats are something that hits harder the second time again because like everything's going by so quick the first time. There's so much happening. I wasn't able to fully let those set in. And then watching it again and knowing what was coming and how they were setting it up, like I know those parallels that I totally missed the first time that are so well done. For example, I didn't realize till watching it again that the way Luigi saves Mario at the end using the again full spoilers here everyone, so get out if you don't want spoilers. The way Luigi saves Mario by blocking Bowser's fire with a manhole perfectly mirrors the literally actually the bathroom scene from earlier where the water's coming out of the wall and Luigi uses a round shaped mirror to hold it off. So like just like little touches like that really I
Hmm.
think kind of enhance it. And speaking of the bathroom, actually, there is one thing, a comment I wanted to mention here from I Hate Myself. I hope you don't really hate yourself. I hate myself. But they say that dog scene is very Secret Life of Pets. So I'll be fully honest. When I saw that scene, I'm like, oh my god, are we going off the rails here? Like, I got a little scared there, Paul. I'm a little nervous. I'm like, oh man, is this it? It did feel very Secret Life of Pets. Like, it felt like that dog could have just been a character from that movie. So I'm like, oh man, are we going off the rails here? Luckily they didn't. They brought it back, and even then, I think again that scene works fine upon a rewatch. But the first time, I was a little apprehensive of what they were doing there.
Yeah. You don't connect that to typical Mario lore. That wasn't a scene out of a Mario game. Whereas most scenes in this movie were scenes out of a Mario game. Like even running through Brooklyn, that's like kind of like New Donk City in Super Mario Odyssey,
Right.
whereas that was a little bit different. But as we discussed a little bit briefly, that might actually be something more than just a Mario scene with the dog.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you have you think it could you have a theory that could actually be based on a real world incident. You want to give a quick rundown to this, Paul?
A quick rundown. We had a discussion like all the different things in the movie that we saw. But what about this dog, Francis? Who is he? What is he? Are we missing something? The name, the collar, anything like that? His color? No. So back in the day, there was. I'll keep this short. Separate video later on. There was a an interview with Mr. Miyamoto. It was published in a book called Game Over in 1994 of a dog attacking a young Shigeru Miyamoto in Japan, coming off the chain unhinged and nearly bit him in the face. This was a known event, and it was known that Mr. Miyamoto used that as inspiration later on in creating Chain Chomp. So I think Nintendo didn't coincidentally put the dog in the movie. That was the biggest Easter egg that has been sitting in front of people's faces that no one's seen. That the dog is the old dog in Mr. Miyamoto's real life that almost attacked him. And in this case, Luigi and Mario are Mr. Miyamoto. That's the Easter egg that's not from a game, but from Miyamoto's life.
I kind of love the idea that the pivotal scene could have been
Right?
rooted in Miyamoto's
That's it.
history. Yeah, it's genius. And
Now
again,
maybe Nintendo's watching and they're like, oh, yeah. Like,
I,
no, it's just coincidence.
the
I
chat's
think
blowing up about this theory. They love it. So
right,
yeah,
deep
it's
lore.
so again, like there, I swear to God, it's amazing how like literally almost everything in this movie feels like it's a reference, but without some critics have said like it's like all it is a series of references. And I feel like that's really underselling it here. But I feel like they tied the references in such an organic, natural way. Now, to be fully fair, with Mario having 40 years of history, like it's hard to throw a dart and not have it be a reference to something, right? But I feel like almost everything, like I'm noticing even things now watching it again that that I'm like, oh, that could be a reference to this without me even acknowledging it the first time. For instance, something I realized earlier is the way the Donkey Kong battle ends, Mario versus Donkey Kong, the way it ends with Donkey Kong falling through the ground to the lowest level. Like that's just straight up like the Donkey Kong arcade game. That happens there too, where he falls down, hits the ground, and I'm like, oh, that's just so well done. But yeah, I love your theory there, Paul. So maybe I wonder if we can get confirmation one of these days as to whether that actually was the case.
They're like, dang, they found out too soon.
Yeah, I know, right?
Supposed to take
too
years.
quick. Kenny Michael, the super chat, thank you, Kenny, says, I give the movie a 9 out of 10. The thing is, you'd have to have played the games and know about the origins of Mario to get many references. Yeah, definitely, Kenny. I mean, you're not wrong there. And so two things about that. One, I talked to my parents who saw the movie. We have a whole video about it. They're loosely familiar with Mario, but not like we are, or any of us, I imagine. And they had a blast. So I don't think you have to understand every reference to have a good time. That being said, I think the movie clearly was designed for fans first. Like as soon as the reviews start coming out, I put out like a tweet PSA. I'm like, look, don't worry if you're a Mario fan, don't worry about what the critics are saying. You're probably gonna have a blast at this movie, but it was designed, I felt, for like us first, and that's the way I wanted it to be.
Totally.
I'm glad it was that way because had they done anything else, had they made it for people who aren't familiar with Mario first, it would compromise the experience that is at the end of the day aimed at us. Like, why would you want to compromise what is such a great movie already in order to cater to those who don't care about Mario, you know? And what makes me happy, Paul, is that the demographic for Mario is big enough that they didn't have to make those compromises. They didn't
Yep.
have to compromise what Mario is in order to cater to a market that doesn't know who he is or care who he is.
Yeah, I agree. And not that I needed this or you needed this, but the fact that it was so accurate and so close to the source material is almost this validation for what you love being so good, because now the world movies are, well, actually video games make more than movies, but movies are talked about more than movies. Often, movies are talked about more than games oftentimes. Like you don't see Access Hollywood saying Super Mario Odyssey is now at 27 million copies
Right,
sold
no, you don't.
worldwide.
Exactly, I
No.
don't care, yeah.
So movies. So like the fact that they didn't have to change the formula. Yeah, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Uncharted are good, but to make it a movie, you have to do this. The audience is going to need that. And this was like, no, we made a Mario movie out of a Mario game, and we just fleshed it out a little bit, and that was perfect. And that's the stuff that we loved. So it's like, guess what, world? That's why. And now more people get to see it. Like, oh dang,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's
Well,
doing exactly what
feels
Nintendo, I think, wanted to. Like, it's raising awareness of the IP. It's going to get more people playing the games, of course. Not that there's a shortage of that at all.
no.
But yeah, the movie's accomplishing. I mean, I suspect it's performing even wildly beyond even Nintendo and Illumination's own expectations. I think even what's his name, Chris Pasendra, what's his name? Do you remember?
Melandandri.
Milan, thank you. I don't know where I got the
Melandandri.
P
Yeah.
from. One of the producers on the movie, he even said in an interview earlier today that it's exceeding his expectations. So,
Yeah. Good.
and real quick, I wanted to give a shout out to Storm, who mentioned that we're blowing his mind right here with all the references and the mirror scene with Luigi. But yeah, we got a super chat here from Noah, Noah Charles the Man. Thank you, Noah, who says one complaint I did have was that they did not need the popular songs they did not need the popular songs in the movie. But Peaches 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 was great. Oh, Peaches 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 is a standout moment. Like that
Oh my
is
gosh.
amazing.
You've seen the two music videos, right? One with Jack Black and one that they used from footage from the film, right? The one that just dropped today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think those are terrific, and yeah, sign that movie up for a Grammy.
Yeah, it's
I
so
mean, it's
good.
really good. It's catchy
It's
and it's fun. I
it
played it
was
so
stuck in
many
my head
times.
after. Yeah, I think it's impossible not to get. Even my mom, my freaking mom, during the discussion was like Peaches, 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 and
Peaches,
she's
Peaches.
and she does not care about Mario at all normally, you know. So it's so
Oh,
funny. As for the licensed songs, okay, Paul, I'm gonna be fully honest. The first time I did find them a little jarring a bit. Watching again, I thought not only did I think they worked fine, I think they actually may have been the best call. So for two
okay.
reasons. One, I know there's been some controversy, maybe not the best word. Now that we have the full soundtrack out there, we found out, oh, there's actually some other music on the soundtrack that wasn't used in the movie. Like for instance, the first cart scene in the movie, where we know that they composed an amazing track for that
Oh.
scene that wasn't used in the movie. And that has a lot of people upset because, why use Take On Me when you could have used this instead?
Hmm.
You know what? Watching it back, I watched it with that music inserted, and I watched it with Take On Me. I think Take On
Mhm.
Me was a better choice. I think it works better. I think it sells like the scene, the energy, and the joke with the crash in particular better than the music did, which is more thematically true to the source material. But I feel like it's almost, I don't know. I don't know what the best way of putting it is, but I feel like it almost it doesn't sell the moments they're trying to as hard as Take On Me does.
I was a big fan of the real world tracks in it, which I think there are 5 of.
Not even
In
that
addition
many.
to
Not
the,
even that many. They were
it's not
surprisingly
many.
reserved with it.
I thought it was great the first time. I mean, I also happened to like each of those songs, but as they were bopping like next to you when we were in the theater together, I was moving my leg around and shaking my like I've heard these songs hundreds of times in my life,
Oh,
especially
especially
growing
with
up
us
in the
being
80s.
from that
Oh my
era.
gosh,
Yeah.
from that era, but I still listen to them nowadays. And what else? So my kids didn't know on my second viewing. They're like, "Dad, that's a song that you like." Like they knew "Take On Me." That's my song. So one of them, right? I
Right.
thought it was very fitting. And one of the things I appreciate video game music for what it is. And I say, like, I mean, traditional video game music going back to like 8-bit monochromatic sounds and whatnot, and fully orchestrated pieces and musics and songs with lyrics. But a lot of people don't like or can't get around tunes without words. And if the movie didn't have any licensed soundtracks from real world stuff and just filled in those 5 scenes with originally composed, fitting Mario music, I think it would have been hit a little bit differently, because some of the more expanded audience was like, this is great stuff, but there's nothing to sing around to. It's familiar, but audio is a big part. And throwing in familiar audio from the real world, it just kind of makes sense, because you do
Yeah.
have real world in the game, in the movie, in Brooklyn, so it also makes sense from that regards. And I think it
It's
was the right decision going with the music. Some disagree, but
Yeah,
I
no,
loved it.
I fully agree, actually. I think actually was a very smart choice. I mean, not that it's uncommon for Illumination. And again, I think I give credit to them for like actually being as reserved as they were, because it's not overpowering. Like, the licensed music is a minority portion of the movie compared to the original music here. Also, shout out to Dan Christian in the chat. He says Brian Taylor is awesome. Or sorry, Brian Tyler is awesome. Yeah, he did great. He killed it.
Great
And
job.
I think having that music, for one, it actually fits thematically pretty well for a couple of reasons. You mentioned the real world setting, so Mario would be familiar with his music in real life.
Yeah.
Two, the 80s setting, which we see Mario is clearly a fan of, playing an NES of all
That was
systems.
big.
And of course, Mario himself is originally from that decade, so it ties in well in a real world sense for us. It also helps create a connection too for people who may not be as familiar with Mario. It does, like, my parents, for instance, like, they know some Mario music, but I think having those tracks in there do help. Like, it almost helps underline or sell what they are seeing and help them connect with it even better. And I think, again, after on my second viewing, I'm like, these tracks are actually pretty. They actually fit really well. Koji
I think.
Kondo himself, in an interview with Rolling Stone, I believe, said he thought they fit flawlessly. Of course, he's not going to say he hates it, but I don't think he's lying either. So
Very true. Right.
yeah. Deadly Sins with a super chat asks, what could have made the karting scenes even better? I don't know. Like, they realized it so well.
It,
What?
it was a mode of transportation and not a race.
Right, that's true.
So maybe if they incorporated Cranky, I mean, I'm not disappointed at all. But if
Yeah.
to answer the question, if Cranky said, by the way, the first place winner is going to get this golden banana. Oh, it's on. Like, you're not winning this from me. Like, one extra drive, as in addition to getting there, also whoever gets there first is going to win something. I don't know, but maybe that's it, or maybe an extra weapon being thrown, a bomb or something. But what do you think?
Honestly,
I
I
don't know.
don't even know, because, like, you could break down every scene to, like, how I would have done it. But I'm looking at Mario Kart and I'm like, I don't know, like, it just seeing it realized on the big screen in the manner they did it, like, really just, it's everything I ever wanted. I'm like, I only know what
Mm-hmm.
more I would want. Like, sure, more items, I guess, or more, yeah, maybe having it be a race, but I don't know. With it not being a race, it fits, it's more story based inherently than rather
Yes.
than it just being a race. Like, one of the complaints about, one of the best scenes about the Phantom Menace is the race scene. But then people also complain, that's legit, that's literally all it is. It's just a race. It really, you could almost cut that scene and it wouldn't change anything else about the movie. So I like that the Mario Kart scene actually fits better than it just being a random race for the heck of it. Even if, you could
Right.
argue that, like, it's, it may have just been shoehorned in there still, but they want a Mario Kart. But I think it fits pretty well. So
Definitely.
there is something I want to touch on. I mean, there's a lot of things I want to touch on, but one thing before we get too deep into this is the relationship between Mario and Luigi, because I think it is so beautifully realized in this movie, and it's something, again, I appreciate even more upon my repeated viewings, just how well done that relationship is. Like, the part that hits me the hardest, I think, is when Mario rescues Luigi after he's, like, falling to the lava, and you see them reuniting and just how happy they are, like, how they just, like, fully embrace each other. There's, like, nothing, like, it's just pure positivity, pure joy,
Oh,
sheer joy. I love that. Like, that's such a positive representation of, like, two brothers, and I love that. Like, and, like, it almost moves me to tears. Like, see, and then especially with how, with later on in the real world scene when Luigi saves Mario again, how they work together to to accomplish their goal. I'm like, I freaking, this is everything I ever wanted. Like, what I liked about Luigi's Mansion 3 before is the final set piece of Mario and Luigi working
Yeah.
together.
Oh, I love that.
It felt like that, but grander. I'm like, oh my god, loved it, killed it, perfect. So
They're both each other's, biggest supporters, and that's why they are the Super Mario Brothers. And
exactly.
the dad, Charles Martinet's voice character of Mario and Luigi's dad was like, oh, you're bringing your brother down with this, and Luigi doesn't see that at all. He looks up to it. Mario is almost he's his hero, but Mario looks at Luigi as this like, you're a very valuable person to me. Like, I love you, man. And I got your back in the playground as a kid, and I have your back here. And almost like when Mario's around, Luigi is empowered to break out of his fearful shell. Where when he was on his own in the dark lands, he was scared. He kind of needed Mario for being his power up, his person. And at the end, like you said, not just in the bathroom with the shield to protect them, but with the sewer lid. That's my moment. Like, I'm there for my brother like he's there for me.
Right.
That dynamic. I'm a single
I mean,
child, but if I had a brother, I would want it to be a Mario Luigi relationship.
they build up to that scene too.
It's good.
With Mario being in the Punch Out Pizzeria, like you see him all beat up. He's got a black eye, which is like,
Yeah.
as a longtime Mario fan, is hard for me to see it. Like, this beloved mascot, or beloved character, I should say, getting pummeled, doubting himself in that moment until he sees like this, the commercial of him and his brother working together. Like, I'm almost gonna cry right now just talking about it, and like, especially with him seeing his shattered reflection, and then realizing he needs his brother to like fully power through this. Just amazing. And then, of course, with how it builds up to the superstar thing, so good.
Oh, yeah.
So well done.
The ending with the power up, that was so fun. That's another moment where I'm like bopping throughout the movie.
And you have
So
and from basically when the scene from the Mushroom Kingdom, the with Mario and Donkey Kong through this whole New York scene, I think it's all original Mario music, like all from the composer, like no licensed tracks here at all, which I love that they sold these scenes using the Mario soundtrack plus the original compositions, linking everything. But yeah, so well done.
Yeah, I agree.
Jake's in the chat. He points out he loved when our own Jake. He loves when Luigi scrapes the mushrooms off of Mario's dinner plate. Yes, there are so many little touches like that, Jake, in the movie that like help sell like the spirit or the good nature of these characters without like drawing attention to themselves. Which I think again something else I think was overlooked by many. There's like a lot of little touches here and there that don't beat you over the head with it necessarily. Yeah.
It would be interesting, a totally different movie, a totally different experience. What if their roles were switched? Not switched in that way, but like, what if they went to the different areas? Luigi's the one that popped up into the Mushroom Kingdom with Toad, and he's on this adventure, and Mario's in the Darklands. Does Luigi like mushrooms? Would he have gravitated to it faster?
That's a good one. Yeah. What is a reversal of that?
So it's a funny idea.
I have seen one complaint that people wish Luigi were in the movie more. And I almost think that's a sign that the movie's doing something right. Because, yes, I obviously want to see more Luigi. I'm also seeing some complaints in the chat about, like, saying they wish the movie were longer. And honestly, that's the best kind of complaint to have. Like, if you want more or something, that's usually a good sign. And I think you almost needed to have, I think having Luigi in the movie as much as they did, you almost, like, having him separated from Mario, having him not be a huge focus, you almost needed to really sell that ending sequence. I think having more of Luigi, especially in a more prominent role, would have undermined them reuniting at the end. So I think it was a necessary sacrifice in order to have the finale that they did.
Yeah, maybe I would have liked to see Luigi get one other power up earlier, but then that would have taken away a little bit from that Mario Donkey Kong moment, and those two characters needed to get fleshed out. So saving Luigi for the superstar did make sense. In a sequel, I could see them both having,
right,
more, or maybe a 3-person team up with DK. Who knows?
Absurd Mario Bro says Mario throwing up the mushrooms went better than I thought. Yeah, I mean, this is we've never seen Mario get like vomit before, and they did it like they acted as if he were like having a hangover. And again, this is like one of those like kind of riskier jokes by Nintendo standards that I never expected to see. And there's a few jokes along those lines in the movie that are not specifically along that line, but like riskier that I didn't expect. Like the Luma
Uma.
who wants to die. The Koopa Troopa being flamed to death by Bowser and turning into a dry bones, you know?
Yeah. When Mario threw up that one mushroom and it went like that was the funniest thing. I
I
laughed
love
so
that.
hard when that happened. Like,
So funny.
yep, he lost the power up.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
just how they tie it in, like they're respectful of the source material, and so when they find a way to twist how they work in a way that still feels true and is funny at the same time, that's good writing. That is smart. And there's a lot of like clever moments like that where they're able to take they're able to take what we know about the series and present it in a new way that is either clever or funny or inventive, and that is just a joy to see as a longtime fan. Thank you,
mhm.
Sussy Ted in the chat, who's a big fan of the channel. Noah had a super chat earlier who says, "My favorite part is when Mario turned into a Tanuki." I think that's a lot. I think that's gonna be a lot of people's favorite part. I think that's just a really well done action scene.
Yeah, and he used the Mario move to take out Bonsai Bill. He wasn't strong enough, like a
I didn't
Superman
even
kind of
think
thing.
about that. He does a tailspin.
Yep, he did a
Right.
tailspin. You're gonna get it, and I see that's something that we didn't talk about. But like here you are, 3 times about to watch it 4.
Tonight, yep.
Now you're like, wow, just one more little attention to detail, which is the thing. I don't know. What do you appreciate the most? I don't know if I can find one thing, but I think for me it would be the attention to detail that they were able to replicate from the Mario games into one movie.
Mm.
But that's a big thing to
Yeah,
say.
it's a
That's a
big thing.
blanket
I mean,
statement. That's like music. It's just attention. I don't
yeah,
know.
I mean that's the thing. The fact that it's
I love it.
difficult. It's difficult to pinpoint a single
Hard.
thing. Sorry.
No, it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't like almost everything. Like when I was watching it my first time, like I legitimately was almost brought to tears by just how beautiful everything was realized on the screen. Even though like the critical analytical side of my brain is having a few issues here and there, like my heart was like just losing it at just how well they were largely pulling everything off. And that's why I think I enjoyed it more the second and third times when I was able to do more either like turn off the analytical side of my brain or not even worry about that portion and just enjoy the movie for what it is. And I think if I had to pinpoint something, it's of course realizing the world, but it's really the character dynamics. It's really like how these characters are portrayed, the characterization of them, and how they play off each other. I think they almost completely nailed it. And even to the extent that they adjusted some characters like Princess Peach. She's almost a different character here. Like it's still rooted in the games to a degree. Like we've seen Peach, kick butt in the games before as well. But she does it in a way in the movie to a degree we've never seen before. And she's not a damsel in distress. She's her own character. She almost doesn't even need Mario. and that is like that's compelling. I like that. And I hope the games actually take a lesson from that moving forward.
Yeah. This Princess Peach shows why she is the princess, because she was chosen, not born into the role. And that sets up her character into being, I had to become kind of badass out here. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
We have a first-time super chat from Dinosaur Y. Thank you, Dinosaur Y, who says, I won't mind if the Blue Shell Koopa shows up in the next movie. Also would like to see more Diddy Kong. So, is that Blue Shell guy going to return? I think he's dead.
Oof. Oof.
Or is it Dry Bones, at least?
Is he from a very rare race of Koopas?
That can
Or
respawn. Yeah. Yeah, well, what is he even? Yeah, like, what kind of special ability? How did he get the special ability, right? So,
there was only one of him.
yeah,
he was rare for sure.
He's on the poster too. Like he was a main character. Yeah, he's on one of the posters. We had another super chat here from Deadly Sins. Thank you. It says, which enemy do you wish made an appearance? Ooh, that's a good question. Paul, who would you want? What other enemies would you have wanted to see?
I'm not disappointed that any of them weren't, but
Yeah,
maybe a nod or a glimpse of one of Koopa's kids, whether it's Bowser Jr. or one of the Koopalings.
yeah.
But then I would want that character to have some depth, and I don't know if they would be given the right amount of time. So I guess one of the Koopalings would have been nice to see, but then only if it was in a big enough role. and I don't know if there's enough time to make a big enough role. Sometimes less is more. Like instead of having, I mean, they have so much to choose from, you
Yeah, they
know.
do. Like
So if they put too many big
hundreds.
name characters, it's like, uh, you don't get to flesh anybody out. I feel like every character here got enough screen time, which I liked. So
Yeah, I mean,
Koopalings, but
yeah, Koopalings are a good one. You know,
maybe
someone mentioned Boom Boom
yes,
earlier. I'd love to see Boom Boom.
yeah, Boom
I
Boom too.
think
Oh, Chain Chomp, which I
oh,
see in the
change
chat.
actually
Sorry,
Change Up would be a good one.
Chain Chomp would be
I
a good
think
one because you don't need a lot of character depth to it.
you know
But
what? Now that they're bringing in Yoshi, you know, we saw a glimpse of Yoshi's Island in the movie. I wonder
mhm.
if there's a chance they could bring in some of the Mario World enemies. Like, I would love to see those dinosaurs realize some of those dinosaur characters realized for the movie. You know, from the game.
I the name of the character I feel bad. It's evading me at the moment, but the big blue gelatinous kind of one that was introduced in Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. I love that one, even
Oh
though I can't
yeah.
think of his name.
See, I feel
They got
like
the big
he's almost
black
too weird for
eyebrows.
me. He's almost too
Not in
weird.
this one, in a sequel though,
Yeah, that's
because
true.
he could look like a cool mid boss of like
Yeah, that's a
this
good
jello.
point.
Like, what is he? And I don't know. And
You know, also that reminds me of something. Shout out to the movie. Okay, I've made no bones about the fact that I'm not a huge fan of the new Super Mario Brothers games, to the point that I don't even care about most of the enemies they introduced. You know, like the Brambles, for instance, like in the games or whatever. That is the first enemy we see, or at least prominently in the movie, and I loved how they used them. I'm like, all right, you're actually winning me over here on the whatever the guys are called, Bramble something. I loved especially with how like Mario says hello to him as he passes over. I thought it was a really cute touch. Yeah.
uh,
Anyways, I was gonna mention. Oh, someone mentioned that the Chain Chomp is in the movie. I forgot. We do see them during the Bowser,
mon-
the rave
the
sequence. I
training
believe.
montage.
Yeah, I think they're in the. Aren't they there? Or
Oh.
are they? God, I think
I'm not positive. And here
that
I've
scene
seen
is
it a
so.
few
There's so
times.
much happening in that scene
Oh,
that it's difficult to remember everything. But I think they may have been. But Reborn says you hear them barking. Maybe that's it.
okay.
Wait, Thwomp was there too? Says Tiny Rock? I don't remember any Thwomps. All right, well, you know what? I'm seeing the movie
No.
again in a few hours at 8 p.m. tonight, so I'm gonna keep an eye out. So, we got a huge super chat from Man Cup Studios 34. Thank you so much, Man Cup Studios. Appreciate that. Asks, "What's up, guys? Do you think the next Mario movie will be based on Super Mario World or Super Mario Galaxy? Other than Mario, how are you thinking a new F-Zero movie will work in the PG-13 animated feature?" So, two questions. Let's address the Mario World or Mario Galaxy one first. How do you think they're gonna go about this, Paul? Real
All
quick,
right.
opposite the tease Yoshi in the end credits. So, what are you thinking?
I think that Wario and Waluigi find Yoshi while Mario and Luigi are in Mushroom Kingdom. And Wario and Waluigi use Yoshi in a greedy way to rob banks and to get coins. Meanwhile, Kamek knows that this is happening, and Wario and Waluigi are like, "No, we're good guys, Yoshi. See, we look like them. We are them." Then Wario and Waluigi get brought into the world. They're used to rescue Koopa, King and Bowser, and Bowser's like, "Yoshi, you're weak. You're not good enough for my army." Knocks him away, and that's how Mario and Luigi befriend Yoshi and stuff like that. And that's Wario and Waluigi's entry into the film. So that's my speculation talk on how they introduce the characters and how they break Bowser out of the
You
all
know
in
what?
one.
I like it. Yeah, I think for me, I'm guessing. So I would say that they're probably not going to base it either on World or Galaxy specifically. Kind of like how this movie, it just takes from everywhere, right? So I don't think we may
Yeah.
get Galaxy elements or Mario World elements in the sequel, but it's not going to be like, oh, this is the Mario World movie or this is the Mario Galaxy movie, right? Even if it may be closer to that than other things. So I don't know. It's honestly hard for me to even imagine where they go from here. Like, I mean, there's literally 1,000 different ways they could go about it. So it's hard for me to picture like which one might be better. But you know what? Your solution, Paul, is as good as any. Real quick, as for F-Zero, there's no way an F-Zero movie is going to be PG-13. A Metroid movie, maybe, but even that's a stretch. If they, I mean, first off, it's even a stretch to even imagine an F-Zero movie. But if they make an F-Zero movie, it'll be PG. And I would love to see it. Like, Nintendo's goal is to broaden the IP, the demographics of their IPs. Making a movie about a lesser known one is probably a smart move. So I hope we get an F-Zero one.
Yeah, that's Nintendo's end game is, they're first and foremost a software and video game developer, hardware manufacturer. That's their main jam. How can we use other forms of entertainment to strengthen up our software and hardware, which I respect. I don't think they're going to start dishing out 3 movies a year every year. That's not going to be them. It's probably key films here and there. I think they will have sequel. I think they will go into other IP, but not this plentiful twice a year you're going to get a Nintendo movie kind of
Man,
thing.
I want that though now. After
Oh,
how
I
good
would
this
love it.
movie is, I would love to have multiple movies. At least a movie a year from Nintendo would be incredible. So
I would. That would be a dream. Like, I think Star Fox would work really well as a fun cast of four. You know,
yeah.
space themed, different personalities, and Star Fox lends itself really well into an animated film. I mean, a lot of Nintendo's IP did. Sorry.
SpongeMan says, "Did you see the level 1-2 Easter egg?" Yeah, I did. I saw that the first time. Again, that's another just well done Easter egg. Like in universe, it makes sense because it's referencing the level that they're on. But it's obviously a reference to the underground level from Mario, and I love that. It's a clever Easter egg. It's not just a reference; it fits thematically, so that's genius. Like also the whole like 1-1 sequence too. Like so smart how they rebuilt it using. Yeah,
totally
great.
cool with the paint buckets being in the place of this and that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Even there's even green pipes, Paul, where you'd expect to find them in the level. I didn't even notice that
Yeah.
when I did the initial video or helped with the initial video. Artsy Omni with a super chat. Thank you, Artsy Omni, who says, I'm going to go on the record to predict that in the sequel, Bowser Jr. will show up to break his dad out of tiny prison, and Bowser will need to learn how to be a dad and prepare Jr. to inherit the throne. I actually don't think you're wrong. I've actually been thinking about how it would be fun if they open the next movie or early in the next movie. They have to have like a prison break sequence with, Bowser Jr. or the Koopalings or Kamek even having to rescue them. But the question is, how do you bring them in then? Because from this movie, it doesn't seem like Bowser has any kids. So maybe Bowser had a fling in the past and she got full custody of the kids. So maybe that's how they explain it, which would be not terrible, so.
And then you bring in Yoshi the lawyer to explain things.
There we go. The Yoshi, the tax evading lawyer.
Oh,
A criminal lawyer.
we talked about this briefly in like text conversation, but Yoshi, the green egg that we saw in the post credits, that's the only green Yoshi we saw, and that's the Yoshi green egg that we saw being delivered as a gift to this wedding, correct?
Right. Seemingly, yeah.
So
yeah.
I think so. So I think that's how that egg got back to real world Brooklyn and whatnot in that explosion.
That makes
I
sense.
just had to throw that in there because I didn't want to lose it later on in case we didn't.
Something else too is obviously Yoshi's hatched from the games, Yoshi's hatched from eggs all the time in the games. But I think in the context of a movie, it's going to mean something a little bit different. In that, I think this is going to be a newborn Yoshi. It's going to be like a little baby Yoshi. Maybe not necessarily in the baby form from the games, but I wonder they'll play up the element where like this is a young baby Yoshi who doesn't know anything about this world, right? And that could lead to some fun scenes where maybe he's just running amok, and Mario, you literally have to get him under control as he's just like running around Brooklyn doing whatever,
Yep. Eating apples, stealing food.
Yeah, exactly. So, Stario64 with a super chat, thank you, says, their first super chat, thank you, Stario, says, I want to audition for Super Mario Bros. 2 so bad, I plan to try. Hey, if you're a voice actor, go for it. That could be a lot of fun if you're able to
Really
get
cool.
in there. Because they do have, there are other voice actors beyond the main cast, of course. I think they had like 20 of them, at least in the credits. Which, by the way, I was watching those credits. There was a tweet that blew up a few weeks ago being like, the girl from the woman from the ad, the Mario Brothers plumbing ad, was the original Super Show actress for Peach. That actress is not listed in the credits. So I think that was all bunk, Paul.
Oh, yeah. That would have been cool.
That would have been a cool reference.
I'd like her, but
it's possible it's possible she was not credited. That happens every now and then. But someone DM'd me a good theory that I think is actually another well-known actress who actually was, I think, credited in the movie, and apparently it sounds like her. So, anyways, SpongeMan's asking who is stronger, Mario or Luigi?
huh.
They're equally strong.
Yeah.
Lila asks, maybe Daisy will appear in the sequel. Yeah, we kind of touched on this earlier. It's possible, but it feels like they're heading more in the Rosalina direction than anything.
Yeah, Rosalina with the Lumas, possibly the Galaxy mentioning. I like that the Luma Lee was able to get out of the cage at any time. It even did, hanging on the outside. Whoop.
So funny. Does not care. Talkie Tabby with a super chat, thank you, says, if they do a Galaxy-based sequel, it would be cool if the villain is Tatanga from Mario Land. I don't know. Yeah, you know what? Okay, if he's the main villain, I mean, he's a blank slate. Yeah, you could really just reimagine him however you want. So that, of course, will be a fun callback. I don't know if he has, like, if they wanted to be, if they want the villain to resonate, I don't know if he's the best one just because no one knows who he is these days, But he could be like a fun henchman, maybe. Like a fun, like, middleman, if you will, a manager
Yeah, yeah.
of the minions, so.
Maybe Birdo and Wart pop in.
Oh, I was gonna mention that Birdo, to the question earlier of who would want to see. I think Birdo would be a fun
Yeah.
enemy to see realized in this world, especially with how they could play off Yoshi. Um,
Did we get underwater Mario music when they went underwater and the eel thing? I don't recall. Bum 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 bum. Like I
it
don't
wouldn't have,
recall.
yeah, it wouldn't have fit unless they really gave it like a darker tone. That was a scary scene.
Yeah. So that's one music, I guess, that I one piece that I would like to hear in the sequel because I love that piece. But
Yeah, I agree. Beer Can Jeremy with a super chat, thank you, says, I think we're gonna have a Sunshine-esque sequel where Mario shows Peach the real world and Bowser Jr.
ooh,
shows up as Shadow Mario and Egad. What do you think?
I like the idea of Mario and Peach possibly going on a vacation,
Yeah.
sunshine, and
They deserve it. They need a vacation.
yeah. After all that,
Yeah.
that's a fun idea too.
Yeah.
There's
It's not
so many
bad.
fun ideas. Like you said, this wasn't Super Mario Brothers the game, the movie, but it also wasn't every single Mario game all crammed in. It was a lot. So it was like a love letter to Mario fans, but it was picking things from different franchises. You got a cape thing, but you didn't have a wing cap. You had a raccoon tail, but you didn't have, frog suit. So they really dabbled. So I think the next movie will just dabble that much more, but feel like a proper sequel.
Right.
There's so much they could do.
Yeah, there really is. And now that they've done the origin story, they can really just go nuts with a sequel, and really present some more off the wall ideas. Even though the Mushroom Kingdom is already pretty out there. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I love like how I think having this be an origin story, having Mario be effectively our avatar, which he is in the games too, of course, but being our avatar into this crazy world and hearing him comment on that is just really funny to me. Like, oh, these blocks are just floating here, Like
Okay.
I love that. It's like, all right, I guess
Yep.
this is how it is. David with a super chat, thank you, David, says, Andre, did you see Toadette? She's in the poster when Mario is following Toad through the Mushroom Kingdom. Yes, we saw her when they first showed off that scene. We did like a little video on it. So I love that Toadette canonically exists in the Mario universe, movie universe, and she could appear in the sequel. In fact, I imagine she probably would, and she could be a fun, she could play off Toad in some fun ways, especially have some kind of like cute relationship between those two.
Mm-hmm. I'm the brave Toad. No, I'm the brave Toad. Let's see who's more brave. And uh, it's
Yeah,
really cute. It's really fun to think of what they could do.
yeah. There's infinite
Man,
possibilities.
it,
Super
it must be a
Aiden.
blast.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It must be a blast of that creative process because I imagine that everyone on the team were fans too that poured it into it.
It seemed that way. Again, I have not seen a video game adaptation that it seemed like it had this much love put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love again how respectful and true to the games it is. Almost to a fault, but not quite. Like I feel like the Last of Us show, for as good of an adaptation of that as that was itself almost ashamed of being based on the game. But they cut out all the game-like elements. They're all gone. Like they focus purely on the cutscenes more than anything, or what would have been a cutscene in the game. And I love that the Mario movie felt like it felt like it had those game elements still like front and center, and they did such a good job bringing into bringing into a narrative and tying it all together. Super Aiden in the chat says, I'm so happy that people love the Mario movie and it's doing so well. It's been fun seeing people love it on Twitter. Yeah, like I don't think we've seen a moment quite like this for Nintendo. The closest thing I can think of is like Pokemon Go, how that brought a lot of people together.
Mm.
But I feel like we're seeing an amount of love here for in a single instance for Nintendo. I don't think I've ever seen before. Like the closest that I can remember is like being a kid, when like a game or something would happen, but even that was only for fellow kids. Like adults didn't really care that much. Whereas here it feels like everyone cares, or at least the people we're familiar with. Like people in
Yeah,
our demographics are loving this movie. Kids are loving this movie. It seems like everyone loves the movie, and I love the amount of positivity surrounding it.
it's hitting a lot of people, right? Like you said, non folks that are out of our normal demographic that like this thing is just hitting the world in such a maybe we to an extent when that came out was hitting other groups beyond the core gamers, but like
Right.
other than that, as a kid, Super Mario 64 was huge, but mostly for us gamers. So Pokemon Go, yeah, that one was a big one, and this movie is really so much positivity online. I think you said it in one of your comments, like this movie might be the uh, recipe for curing depression. Like you just leave there a
Like,
good time.
I was legit riding a high for days after that movie. Like
Yeah,
it's settled a little bit, but I'm still feeling good overall. But like, man, I have not had a high like that in a long time. Like, I'm like, dear God, I just feel great. Loved Eric. Like, it lives in such a positive energy, and that's something too that I don't fully understand. Like, I feel like sometimes people have expectations of things that don't necessarily always align with what something can be or needs to be. And I think the Mario movie kind of like demonstrates that. Like, I just had a really good time, even if it doesn't have the deepest story or deepest narrative. Does it need to? Like, does every movie need to have a
definitely not.
profoundly moving, moment, or what I mean, like a deep narrative to be resonant with people? I don't think so. Like, I don't think that's necessary, even if the movie does have moments I think hit harder again upon a rewatch. So,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely true.
Stinky Cow, the super chat, thank you, says, very unlikely, but I think Cackletta would be an awesome antagonist for a future Mario movie.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we
Maybe.
saw in this one is they didn't seem too keen on referencing things outside of the mainline Mario games or the biggest spin-offs. So I don't think we saw a single Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi reference that I can recall. So I would be very surprised if we do see her brought in, even if she could be a good fit.
Only the name in Francis, as the dog was character Francis from Super Paper Mario, but not the character, nothing like
That
that.
could have been a coincidence, but it is possible. You're right. We don't know for sure it wasn't a reference. So
Traveling through different dimensions. Like if Mario and Princess Peach, like, let's explore what's else out there. Let's do it together. I think a really cool scene would be, entering a Paper Mario world where they see their doppelgangers as like a paper Princess
oh
Peach and a
no,
paper
don't no
Mario,
no 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 no. I don't
and
want
they're
this.
talking to each other. You're like, are you flat? Huh? And
Well, yeah, they did
I
that in
don't
the
know.
games too, in the Mario and Luigi
Like,
Paper Mario
yeah,
spin-off.
a brief in passing by as
I,
they.
I wouldn't mind. What'd be cute is that they have a storybook in universe, like in the Mushroom Kingdom, based on the adventures, and they're
Oh,
portrayed in
okay.
the Paper Mario
Yeah, that
style.
would be cool too.
Yeah, yeah. Reborn says no multiverse would ruin it. Yeah, I don't want no, multiverses overplayed. No more multiverses. No more. I'm banning them. Joshy X Bendy asks, "What are your thoughts on the movie? Love your vids very much." Well, thank you, Joshy X Bendy. In case it wasn't clear, we both loved it. I think we both loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Uh, let's see. Mr. M says, even the 80s music in the movie had me smiling, love them. Yeah, we touched on it earlier, so I don't want to bemoan the point, or belabor the point, rather. Bemoan the point. I agree. In fact, I think, too, I forget if I mentioned it earlier, I think they almost help better sell the Mario music, too. Because, like, I think not having it be nonstop Mario music makes the Mario music stand out even more.
Mm-hmm.
When they do use it, which is most of the time still. So I
It's
loved, yeah.
it's a great balance.
Yeah, it really was. Like, they didn't overdo it. And especially if you watched the Mario Super Show as a kid, they had licensed music all the time in that show.
Mm-hmm.
To a degree that they actually cut out a lot of it in the re-releases because they didn't want to pay royalty rights for it. So like if you
Mm-hmm.
watch on Amazon or Netflix, wherever it is, you're not getting the classic Super Show experience, but they cut out the
Right.
music. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Tress or Lucas, we are bumping up against our Mario Kart stream on Twitch, so we'll be wrapping up here soon. But are there any other points you wanted to bring up, Paul, that we haven't touched on yet?
Oh, I don't think so. Other than just recommend the heck out of it. I hope most people here have seen it and have enjoyed the deep dive and get to, see it from a different perspective. But like if you were watching and if you were spoiled and you like that, well, at least now you know what to look out for. Like, oh, some people want to I want to know what to pay attention for. So just, I don't know, keep spreading the Super Mario Brothers movie love.
Exactly. Tiny Rock, we touched on Baby Peach earlier, so if you rewind the discussion, you'll catch that later on, or earlier on, rather. Art L. Corley with a super chat, thank you, asks, do you think Illumination could pull off making an animated Metroid movie? So, I've seen a lot of people be like, "Oh, I wouldn't trust Illumination with that because it's outside their wheelhouse." But everyone is saying the same thing about Mario too. Like I think like when they announced Illumination was making it, I think almost everyone was worried because like, can the studio that makes minions and fart jokes handle Mario? And they proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that yes, they could. Now, to be fair, Mario is probably closer to their more typical movie than Metroid would be. But my point more is that I wouldn't write them off as not being capable of it. I think they are, I think they very well could be capable of it. We just haven't seen it.
That's the exact thing. These are all professional writers, professional musicians, professional animators. They know what they're doing. But their task at hand is not to write a cinematic masterpiece. It is to write comedy. You think that they only know how to make fart jokes? No, clearly that you saw in this movie, they don't. So if they're given the task, like, here's a source material, you're going to work with Nintendo in a similar way.
Right.
This is different. This is what we're not going to do. These are talented folks that they could do it. Like any studio can. Is just, do you get the right team behind it and
exactly.
that right budget and intensity? They could play the part and do it. I would trust if they had the similar relationship, Illumination and Nintendo, with any Nintendo IP, I would say they would make a fine movie. My opinion.
I mean, after the Mario movie, I don't know why people would doubt the possibility. I will say, regardless of who makes it, I think it's unlikely we see a Metroid movie anytime soon. I feel like that's got to be one of the hardest things to adapt, and it feels like it's very. The story of Metroid is almost very anti-Nintendo in general. It's not a movie that's about giving you good feeling. It's not a story about giving you good feelings and things of that nature. And the fact that Samus is largely isolated a lot of the time, they'd have to bend it a lot, I think, to make it work. And I think that's something we wouldn't see for. I'd be surprised if we see a Metroid movie within the next 10 years. I'd be shocked. I think there's many other IPs they could do first. With Zelda obviously being a huge one. So.
Oh boy. Well.
We had a super chat or a donation from JX Channel. Thank you, appreciate it. We also have another super chat from Artsy Omni. Thank you, Artsy, who says, "I think they could use Star Fox to prove whether they can adapt to sci-fi as a genre, as well as make a more niche IP into a household name." Artsy Omni, 100% agreed with you. I think Star Fox, for as middling as the game sales may have been, I think it has some of the greatest potential of being realized in movie form because it has a fun atmosphere. It has fun animal-based characters. Like, if you basically take Zootopia, put them in spaceships, like, my god, like, that almost writes itself, like, you can have the cast already plays against each other pretty well in the games. They could just ramp it up for the movies. That could be such a fun experience, and I think that is, like, perhaps a perfect example of how a movie could enhance the market share for the games. Like, you get Star Fox, you realize that in a way that's fun, entertaining, and bam, you just expanded the audience for people that would want to buy the games related to it.
Yeah. Star Fox is a big win. Star Fox for the games, I think they need to take the games and give it a new approach where it's almost like a Ratchet and Clank type game where it's a story around these four. So Starlink did a really good job expanding the characters from a Star Fox narrative. So next game, somewhere in between a Ratchet and Clank meets Starlink, and then the movie being able to take these characters and have fun, and they could work really well to each other and bring more people into the the game side of it.
Real quick, are we good, chat? It looks like we got disconnected briefly, but I think it resumed like instantly. So looks like we're good. No one complained about it, but someone asked if my soda I'm drinking is good. I'm drinking Soleil. It's sparkling water, not soda. It is good. Thank you for asking. Okay, we're good. Chat saying we're good. Awesome.
And 2 new chats came in.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, they're coming in fast. They're coming in hard and fast. Thank you, everyone. Mighty Invincible, the $10 super chat. Thank you. Says, I've always thought a Metroid movie would work best if it focused on other characters, and Samus has talked about like some legend that saves the MC at the end. What's MC stand for?
Main character.
Main character.
Maybe.
Yeah. Is that what they mean?
I don't
Is there
know.
anything else? No. What's the organization called in Metroid? The Space Federation. No. Yeah. I guess. Main character. Anyways, that's an interesting idea. Like, I'm imagining as you're telling the movie through flashbacks. Maybe.
Then you can still keep Samus silent and possibly.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, I guess she would inherently be silent to a degree if she's by herself. But I don't. You know what? I think what the Mario movie has shown me, I don't want silent protagonists in our movies. Like Mario, I know Mario says like he's always saying things, but he's not really saying anything at the same time. So he's in effect a silent narrative character, and I love seeing him actually talk in the movie. We even touched on the voice cast; they were all great for the most part.
Yeah.
And I loved hearing Mario actually have thoughts. Having him actually say things that matter. And I want that for every character that's realized on the big screen.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Bowser Jr. with a super chat, thank you, says Pokemon Stadium tomorrow night. Oh god, that's tomorrow, right? Wait, would that be? Yeah, I guess that would be tomorrow night. I think. You can team up in battles online
Tuesday
with friends. Sorry.
No, I was saying Tuesday into Wednesday. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, right. Yeah, thanks.
Tomorrow.
Pokemon Stadium tomorrow night. You can team up in battles online with friends or battle against them. You can live stream it. Yeah, I'll do a live stream for sure. I'm excited for it. So, and especially the mini games too. The mini games are a ton of fun. But yeah. Woo! All right, I think we're through the super chats. Paul, what are your final thoughts on the Mario movie?
Great job, delivered everything that I wanted as a lifelong Mario fan. Couldn't be more happier with it. Couldn't be happier as a Nintendo fan and having the stuff that I love the most in this world in terms of any kind of Marvel stuff, DC stuff. Nintendo stuff is my favorite, and Mario is like one of the top ones in Nintendo. And just to see it have so much joy, bring so much joy out there, is a good feeling. And I want more. And yeah, the movie delivered in pretty much every aspect. Can't wait to own it on DVD. There is one thing. I mean, you said earlier, any last thoughts? I made a tweet, I think a public tweet, and I asked you personally a long time ago, would you want to see the movie a second time, like have a potential at-home dub where, this is probably not going to happen, but Charles Martinet voicing over the entire lines of Mario and Luigi? And no. The initial thought was, no, not necessary. It could break it up. Right now, as much as I like that, it's not... I mean, as much as I would like to hear it for curiosity's sake, it's not needed because it exists so well on its own. As an alternate, I would be curious to hear that, but it's not needed. They proved that it works.
Yeah, David in the chat is all aboard for the idea. I don't think we need it because I think it would undermine what the movie already is, I think. Then you have two competing versions, and then people are going to debate which one's better or worse. And I think the way they handle Charles Martinet in the movie, I think is already brilliant. With him being both basically the original Mario, being Jumpman.
Giuseppe, a Jumpman there was cool.
And then Mario's dad, literally Mario's dad. I thought that was genius. I actually think that almost pays more respect to Charles Martinet as the video game voice than it would have been making him the actual voice of Mario, if that makes any sense.
And I'm glad it wasn't just one scene. Giuseppe was in the beginning and at the end. Mario's dad showed up like 3 or 4 times, so
right,
you felt his presence even though he didn't have a ton of words.
Yeah, Warco in the chat says they did Charles justice. I think honestly they handled it the best possible way they could have. I thought they did great. I wish I got my own adaptation, Jess, my own Nintendo adaptation. Yeah, and I thought actually I love Chris. I love Chris's portrayal of Mario. Like he gave him it was a heartfelt performance. Like I felt, it's something I want to touch on briefly, but I love the fact that we actually got to see Mario experience emotions too. I mentioned it at the end. I love that. I love seeing Mario experience things beyond just pure joy. Not that I didn't like that as well, of course, but I love that Mario actually had depth to his character here, and the entire cast did, and I adored that. So. Amazing movie. The more I see it, the more I love it, the more I appreciate it. Yep. Honestly, it's to the point where I almost don't like our prior discussions about the movie. But I felt like we were too negative in them, even though I loved it then too. I felt like we drilled in a little too hard in on it when I think it wasn't worthy of it. I think this movie is fantastic for what it sets out to be, which is a fun-filled joyride that hits you in all the right spots, that appeals to Mario fans first, and it's just a complete blast. I love it. For me, honestly, this is almost how I picture Mario now. This is my Mario. The Mario movie is my Mario. I love it. I love the characters. Yeah. They're so well done, and I hope that Nintendo takes lessons from the movie. But I think they could. I think it's a learning experience both ways, and it's just so well done that I love it. So. Yeah.
Did you give it official GameXplain review score?
I did. I said I loved it. An official loved it. I will say it's borderline mind blown now. I'm getting closer to you, Paul. Borderline. Okay. It's just so fantastically well done that I just adore this movie. But yeah, absolute bare minimum loved. possibly even higher. But yeah, and I think honestly, I think we drilled in just too deeply before. I think we were just analyzing it too much, and I think we were undermining what the movie actually is, which is just so well realized for what it is. And I think had the movie been anything more than what it was, it could have come at the expense of what it actually is. So like. I think it handled almost everything perfectly, and that is an accomplishment in and of itself. That they made a Mario movie that almost everyone seems to be loving, at least for the people seeing it, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. So, woo!
Yeah.
All right, chat.
Whew, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. Chat, thank you for hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed the movie as much as we did. It sounds like a lot of you have. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Although I hope you have, because we spoiled a lot of it here. But even if we did spoil it and you haven't seen it, go see it anyway. It's a ton of fun. If seeing it realized on the screen is something even us explaining it can't do it justice. So it's a complete blast. We'll have even more Mario movie videos coming up in the near future, I'm sure. And of course, once they announce all the sequels, which I'm sure they're gonna have happen. Luigi's Mansion movie, make it happen. Come on, Nintendo, I want that.
Let's do it.
All right. Siege Sister, I don't know how to pronounce that. Is it good in 3D? Yes, I enjoyed it in 3D.
Oh, yeah.
Also great in 4DX. See it in either or both of those formats if you can. Ton of fun either way. So I have a whole 4DX review. Go watch it if you haven't already. All right, Paul, real quick, where can people find you at if they want to follow you?
Twitter and YouTube at Paul Gale Network.
And you can find a link in the description below. It's already down there. Go click it if you want to follow Paul Gale, which you should, because Paul Gale's great. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for the super chats. And we'll chat more about the Mario movie in the near future, because I cannot talk about this movie enough. All right, and plus I'm going to go see it tonight for a 4th time, so I'm sure I'll have even more to say at some point. All right, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.